All right, so you're interested in learning about this new paper, right?
Yeah.
It's really shaking things up in the vision language model world.
Yeah, it is.
What if we could create AI that doesn't just, recognize what's in an image, but like actually understands it? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's what this research is all about. It's
Yeah.
about fine-tuning large vision language models, LVLMs, to make them better at, those discriminative abilities.
Yeah, and this is a different approach, really, from the usual way we see with models like CLIP.
Right.
They rely heavily on contrastive training. So instead of simply comparing images and text, this research is going for something way more nuanced.
So one of the things that I thought was so interesting about this research is it really highlights, some of the weaknesses that we see with these existing models.
Hmm.
Even models like CLIP, which have been revolutionary, they still have a hard time with those like finer points of language.
Yeah.
The paper, it points out that they tend to treat sentences like, just a jumble of words. They don't really grasp the importance of word order or sentence structure.
It's like imagine trying to understand a recipe, right? But all you have is a random list of the ingredients.
Okay, yeah.
You might be able to guess what the dish is, but you're going to miss those really important details that make it work.
Right.
It's what researchers call that bag of words behavior. And it's not just limited to sentences either. These models have a hard time understanding the relationships between different objects in an image, too.
Yeah.
That's limited compositionality.
So if these models, they have all these limitations, why are they so successful on those benchmark data sets, like Flickery and Coco?
That's a really good question. And what the paper suggests is that, those data sets, they might not be challenging enough. They're not really pushing these models to their limits.
Okay.
So it's very possible that their success is kind of hiding some of those underlying issues,
But
right?
so it's like a false sense of like achievement.
Yeah, maybe. So if we're hitting a ceiling with these models, where do we go from here?
Right, exactly.
That's where those large vision language models come in, the LVLMs.
Okay.
They take a powerful vision encoder and combine it with a large language model.
Oh,
Something like, we see with ChatGPT, and that gives them a much deeper understanding of both the images and the text.
so it's kind of like instead of just knowing the basic plot of a movie, it's like you're analyzing the characters, the symbolism, all those deeper, more artistic choices, right?
Exactly. And that deeper understanding, it allows for way more nuanced and complex responses from the AI.
But there's always a catch,
Mhm.
right? These LVLMs, they're usually designed to generate text.
Mhm.
They're not necessarily for tasks like image text retrieval, where you're trying to figure out how well an image and a piece of text match up.
Right. And that's like the core of this research right there. The paper introduces a new technique. It's called VLADVA.
Okay.
That's vision language adaptation for discriminative visual assistant.
Wow.
It's a method for adapting these, generative LVLMs into powerful discriminative models.
Yeah.
So basically, they're able to excel at tasks like that image text retrieval we were talking about.
So how does Vlad VA actually work? I mean, is it that two-tower paradigm?
Yes, exactly. So there's one tower that processes visual information that comes from the image, and then the other tower processes the text
Got it.
and the LLM. It sits at the top, analyzing the output from both of those towers to really understand how that image and text, how they relate to each other.
So it's like two expert detectives, right?
Uh-huh.
One specializing in visual clues, and the other one, they're all about the language. They're working together to crack the case.
Exactly. And another thing that's important about VLADBA is the way that it's trained. They use a very diverse data set of both short and long captions for each image.
So it's not just like, a cat sitting on a mat.
Right. Traditional models, they often only use those short captions, and those might not really capture how complex the scene is. But by using both short and long captions, VLADVA, it can learn to recognize both the main elements of an image and those kind of like subtle relationships between them.
Oh, okay.
Think of it like this. A short caption, it might tell you there's a cat on a mat, but a longer caption, that might describe like the cat's playful expression, the texture of the mat, the sunlight coming through the window. It creates a much, much richer understanding of what's going on in that image.
So it's like adding those details, that color, the extra information really fills it out.
Exactly.
Okay. So VLADVA, it also uses like a really interesting combination of training techniques, right?
Yes.
For short captions, it uses contrastive loss like CLIP.
Mm-hmm.
But for the long captions, it uses the LLM's generative power, and this is with a next token prediction loss. So what that means is it's learning to predict the next word in a sequence. but at the same time, it's comparing it to the image.
Right. It's like, imagine you're training someone to write like a really detailed caption for an image, but at the same time, you're making sure that they're really paying attention to what's actually in the image.
Uh-huh.
This makes sure that the model isn't just generating text that sounds good,
Right.
it's generating text that accurately reflects what's happening visually.
Now, fine-tuning these massive models, I mean, that can take forever.
It can. It
Yeah.
takes so much computing power.
How does Vlad VA even deal with those challenges?
Well, the researchers, they've got some tricks up their sleeves.
Okay.
They're using soft prompting, which is kind of like giving the model little hints to help it focus on the most relevant information.
Okay.
And they're also using LoRa adapters.
Okay.
These are like special modules that reduce how many parameters you need to adjust during training. These techniques, they really cut down on the computational demands.
Makes sense.
It makes the whole process much faster, and you don't need as many resources.
And what's so cool is that Vlad VA does all of this without sacrificing performance.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's actually outperforming other models, even some of those, really big, complex ones.
Yeah.
It's kind of amazing.
It's a testament to how cleverly Vlad VA is designed, and also it shows the power of picking the right training techniques. The researchers, they've created this model that's both powerful and efficient. It really shows that sometimes less is more.
So what does all this research mean? Is Vlad VA going to, change how we interact with images and text?
I think VLADV really offers this promising new path forward in like the whole field of vision language models. It shows that we can build models that are way more nuanced, more accurate, and also more efficient than anything we've seen before.
But I mean, we've only just started to explore what Vlad VA can do, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
there's so much more to uncover.
So much more. So VLADV, when they tested it on those benchmark data sets, really impressive. Like for image text retrieval, it just consistently beats out CLIP-like models.
No.
And we're talking like similar size, It even does better than some models that are way bigger.
So what you're saying is it can find like the best image for a text query,
Right?
even if it's like searching through this giant database.
Exactly. And it's not just like being fast.
Okay.
It's accurate too, like way more accurate than other models. So it's not just matching keywords, it's like getting the meaning, the intent behind, the words.
That's a big deal. But how does it do with those more challenging tasks?
Yeah.
The ones where it needs to like actually understand the relationships between objects in an image.
That's where it really gets interesting. Vlad VA, it's awesome on benchmarks like Sugar Crepe and Sugar Crepe ++ Har.
Uh-huh.
Those are designed to test how well a model understands compositionality.
Right.
So we're talking like complex descriptions, right?
Yeah.
The model has to get not just the objects, but like their attributes, how they relate to each other.
So it's not just, okay, there's a cat and a dog. It's like the cat is chasing the dog.
Exactly. Or like the dog is wearing a red collar, that kind of thing.
Okay.
And Vlad VA, it consistently does better than other models on these benchmarks. Like it's really showing that it can understand those more complex relationships.
So it's getting it.
And you know what else is cool? Its performance on object swapping tasks.
What's that?
So the model has to correctly identify images where like two objects have switched places.
Huh.
Traditional models, they really struggle with that whole bag of words limitation.
Right, right.
But Vlad VA, it's getting it.
So it's like pushing the boundaries of what AI can do.
It is. And the paper, they actually looked at why it's so successful. They found that Vlad VA, it changes how the LLM behaves in some pretty interesting ways.
Like what?
So, for example, it increases something called attention density,
Okay.
which means the model, it starts pulling information from all over the image. It's not just focusing on certain objects.
So it's like instead of just looking at a couple of things, it's taking in the whole scene, like a human would.
Exactly. It's seeing the big picture. And this change in how it pays attention, it shows up in the model's internal representations. Those are called embeddings.
Mm-hmm.
So after they train it with Vlad VA, those embeddings, they become more diverse, more spread out. It means the model is capturing finer details, It's creating these richer representations, both for the image and the text.
So it's not just processing things faster, it's processing them smarter.
It is.
It feels like we're getting closer to AI that really understands the world the way we do.
We're definitely moving in that direction. I mean, we're not there yet, but
Yeah.
research like this, it's showing us the way.
Now, this all sounds amazing, but let's step back for a second. What does this mean in the real world? Like, what are the applications?
Oh man, the possibilities are huge. Think about like image search. Right now we use keywords or simple phrases, but with Vlad VA, you could just describe what you want.
Oh, wow.
You could use complex sentences, talk about relationships, actions, the whole nine yards.
So instead of searching red car, you could be like, find me a picture of like a vintage red convertible driving down a coastal highway as the sun sets.
Exactly. And the search engine, it would actually understand what you meant.
That would completely change how we use images online.
Think about e-commerce. People could search for products with all these specific details.
Yeah.
And, it's not just finding things, it's about accessibility too. Like
Yeah.
systems that could analyze images and then describe them in detail for people who can't see.
That would be incredible.
Right. And because Vladvia understands context, it opens up new possibilities for, content moderation. It could help platforms identify harmful or inappropriate content, not just by the objects, but by what's actually happening in the image.
That can make a big difference in keeping people safe online. What about, like, robotics?
Oh, yeah. Imagine self-driving cars that don't just see objects, they actually understand what they're seeing.
Bro,
They could predict how people, cyclists, other cars are going to behave.
that would make them so much safer.
Exactly. And this applies to other kinds of robots too. Like imagine robots working with humans, understanding what they need, adapting to new situations.
It's like moving beyond just programming them to do stuff.
It is. It's about real collaboration. And honestly, this is just the start. Vlad V is like a foundation.
Okay.
We don't even know all the ways it's going to change things. It's like giving developers this brand new, powerful tool. It's going to be exciting to see what they do with it.
It's exciting, but it's also kind of scary. Like, what are the things we need to be careful about?
Oh, absolutely. We can't just focus on what's possible, We have to think about ethics, too. We need to make sure these advancements are good for everyone.
So it's about more than just, pushing the limits of technology.
Right.
It's about making sure those advancements fit with our values and that they help create a better world.
Exactly. As we keep exploring AI, it's up to all of us to make sure it's used for good.
So we've been talking about this Live AI research, and it's pretty clear this model is like a game changer.
Yeah, it is.
But it's not just about, benchmarks and all those technical achievements. It's about how this technology, it's going to affect the real world.
That's where it gets really interesting.
Okay, so let's talk image search. Can you imagine a world where, like, search engines get it? Like, they don't just understand keywords, but the meaning behind what you're looking for.
It'd be amazing.
Yeah.
And with LiveVA, that's what you could have. You could search using, like, normal language, describe complex scenes. Instead of searching, red car,
Right.
you could say, I want a picture of a vintage red convertible driving along a coastal highway at sunset.
Wow. And it would actually find it for you?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because it would actually
It
understand.
would, like, revolutionize how we find images online.
Yeah.
And what about e-commerce?
Oh, yeah. Imagine shoppers could search for products with like super specific details.
Right. And not just finding things, but making things more accessible too.
Yeah.
Like, think about those systems that can analyze images and then create these detailed descriptions for people who can't see.
That would be incredible, wouldn't it? Making online content accessible to everyone.
Exactly.
And VOD VA, because it understands the context, you could use it for content moderation too. Like it could help those platforms, identify those images that are harmful, not just by what objects are there, but by what's actually happening.
Right. Creating a safer online experience.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's switch gears a little bit. What about robotics and like self-driving cars?
Oh, man. Think about self-driving cars that not only see things, but they understand what they're seeing.
Oh, wow.
They could predict how pedestrians, cyclists, other cars are going to act.
That's like next level.
Right. It's about safety. And it could apply to like other kinds of robots too. Imagine, robots working alongside humans. They understand the instructions. They anticipate what's needed.
It's like real teamwork.
Right. It's more than just programming. It's about genuine collaboration. And I mean, this is really just the beginning. Vlad VA, it's laying the groundwork.
Yeah.
We don't even know all the ways it's going to change things. But it's exciting.
It's exciting, but also kind of like, what are the things we need to be careful about?
That's the big question.
Yeah.
Right. We have to be responsible. We have to think about the ethics of all this. We have to make sure these advances, they benefit everybody.
So it's not just about like how far we can push technology. It's about making sure it aligns with our values and that it helps us create, a better future.
Exactly. As we keep going with AI, it's on us to make sure it's used for good.
That's a great point to end on. It's been amazing exploring this new research with you. And for all our listeners, we hope this deep dive has given you a lot to think about. Thanks for joining us.